Hi everyone and welcome. Here at 1millionnights.com, we came up with a new project idea where instead of just a general reading guidance, where it is us, specifically me, who are offering free guidance and tarot readings to our viewers, readers, to our fans, there are some people out there who already have a tarot deck and would like nothing more to learn, or if you have already learned, maybe you would like a different approach, different perspective, different opinion about a specific tarot card, because listening to other readers' opinions, take some things, philosophies, how they practically use it, only enriches everyone else's experience. And naturally, I'm no exception to this. When I see a video and a reader takes on a very different approach to a specific tarot card, one which I have never heard of before, or one which I never usually took into consideration, well, either way, it basically enriches my own knowledge, my own experience. So we start on posting each and every week a video about a specific tarot card, but not in a sense where we predict the future with it or offer any kind of reading or guidance, but we present the possible interpretations of the tarot card and how you can use it practically in your own work, in your own readings. I really hope that you like and enjoy our initiative and our new project idea as much as we are. Many of our listeners, viewers, readers encouraged us not just to offer them like free guidance, but also to try our very best and offer them free sources of knowledge, as in teaching videos. So this can be useful for those people who already know tarot, but at the same time, maybe it can spark your curiosity, your interest, and inspire you to buy a deck of your own and start working with it. Because the tarot is a wonderful source of information, of guidance. It is basically a language where you can communicate with, all sides and aspects of the spirit, but also, and I think this is more importantly, with your higher self or with your unconscious mind. So it is always a good idea to have at least just a tiny bit of know-how about the symbolism of the 78 cards. Of course, some decks contain more. Since this is a new beginning for us, as in the new beginning of this video series, it is only natural that we start with the Major Arcana, specifically the very, very first card, the Fool, bearing the number 0 in most decks. Of course, there are some decks which attribute a different number to the Fool card, but here we will usually follow the number, symbolism, and interpretation of the cards as they are depicted in the Rider-Waite set. Now, of course, there are some readers who don't really take that much in consideration the astrological, the philosophical, the, for example, Kabbalistic interpretation of the card, but rather use the graphic images, the depiction, and the visual elements to spark up their intuition. So in these video series, we are not going to talk about their graphics, the visuals on the card, rather just their general way of interpretation, as if you would simply write on a piece of paper or cardboard the Fool card without any drawing or graphic representation, it could still perfectly work. Now, after this intro, let's dive into the symbolism of the Fool card. Now, first of all, number 0 and the fact that it is the very first card of the tarot deck is really important, because regardless of how we look at it, it is still symbolizing a new beginning, a fresh start, birth, the beginning of the journey, starting something. For example, the very first steps one takes in order to learn something, or to acquire knowledge, mastery, know-how. But of course, this new adventure where the fool embarks on a journey, a road, a path to knowledge and mastery is not something that the fool is likely to finish and complete very, very quickly, because it has to go through all of the 22nd Major Arcana, which depict a totally different dimension of the journey of the fool. But before its journey begins, the fool is extremely symbolic because it represents almost absolute and total innocence. The fool basically has absolutely no knowledge of anything, and that is why it's very pure, it is innocent, it is untainted, its mind is absolutely fresh, it is free, it is on conditions, it is basically like a sponge just waiting to absorb knowledge, experience, adventures, and of course every lesson that life may throw at it, and naturally alchemize it into mastery. And because of the innocence, of the purity, of the symbolically said virginity of the fool, many readers also associate it with children, because children are exactly the archetype of the fool. They're innocent, their minds are totally untainted, unconditioned, they have a thirst for knowledge, they're extremely curious, because their curiosity can simply guide them to being at the right place at the right time. So the fool always has the beginner's luck attached to it, because the fool doesn't embark on this journey, path to knowledge, path to mastery, or achieving his dreams and goals, as a fresh new beginning, the start of a journey, out of sheer ambition. No, the fool always has a very profound inner calling. Some people might think that inner calling stems from curiosity. Other people might think that inner calling is actually guided by divine forces. And other people might think that it is basically part of the fool's destiny, something that he has planned before he incarnated down here on earth. Like most tarot cards depict the fool as a young person in tattered, torn clothes with a stick and a little pouch on its back and a loyal dog accompanying him. So that basically represents that the fool is full of initiative, it is full of thirst of adventure, but it is also very fragile, very vulnerable. It lacks experience, it lacks knowledge, it lacks foresight, so it can only trust its instincts, and it can only rely upon its unconscious mind, because that is where the inner compass is. So depending on your situation, depending on your question, depending on the nature of the knowledge you want to acquire, the fool can mean different things, and it is you who has to adapt the symbolism of the fool to your situation. So most times the fool, without a doubt, means a new beginning, but that new beginning, sometimes it's not really guaranteed, because you need to have those very strong inner motivational forces. So sometimes that new beginning involves a massive risk or a leap of faith on your behalf, or depending on the situation, depending on the question. That is exactly also why many tarot decks depict the fool at the edge of a cliff, because it has to jump. the new beginning also has a lot of risk attached to it. Because, bye-bye comfort zone, bye-bye everything that you knew until that moment in time. So it represents having to surrender your past experiences, having to surrender everything that you actually acquired in the past, usually knowledge-wise, experience-wise, normality-wise. In other situations, the Fool can represent, child, so a very, very young person. But it can also represent the inner child. So the source of your inner curiosity, playfulness, your thirst for knowledge, your thirst for experiences, but all of this with a very fun side. A totally different take on this can represent that the Fool is the card of courage and a massive leap of faith, because the astrological correspondent of the Fool is Uranus, planet of revolution, shocks, the unexpected, the driving force of chaos. So basically, the planet and the symbolism of Uranus always requires us to step out of the comfort zone or embrace something which is extremely futuristic and revolutionary, and try our very best to crystallize it, manifest it in the present. So basically, regarding business, it can symbolize a new project, something new, revolutionary, the next thing, the next trend, something extremely futuristic that can pay off handsomely. It can also represent invitation to make an investment or to dare to risk, dare to gamble, dare to try out your luck. But of course, it can also represent that your business or your project or your initiative is only a tiny embryo, so have no expectations. Whenever you see the Fool card, well, it's always under any circumstances, it always tells you, have no expectations, because you're going towards the unseeable, unknowable, mysterious future, and no matter how intelligent you are, there is still a part of the future that nothing and no one, no force, no power, not even your unconscious is going to reveal to you, because that is the surprise of Uranus. Now, from a psychological perspective, the Fool, as I said earlier, can represent the inner child, but it can also represent immaturity, apprenticeship, basically that you simply do not possess enough experience to comprehend something or view it in a very objective manner. It can also represent childishness, ADHD, monkey mind, so to speak. And if I'm not mistaken, one of the decks that I have chosen actually depicts the Fool as a monkey. So yes, Uranus is the planet of higher intelligence, but when used inappropriately, when not associated with experience, of course it turns into a monkey mind. Sometimes you get it right, but other times your head is just like a big chaos. Now, in terms of love and relationship, the Fool can mean so very many different things. It can mean the birth of a new relationship, where it is your inner child or your fun side, so to speak, which connects the both of you. It can also represent to take a risk in love because it can pay off. It can also represent that your partner wants a child, especially if you're in a long-term relationship. If you're a parent, absolutely without a doubt, it indicates your child or your children. In spirituality, well, it definitely represents that regardless of how you look at your situation, especially regardless what you want to accomplish, you're just an apprentice and you need a lot of study, you need a lot of mastery, but you shouldn't really fear, because everything can go very, very quickly, because I repeat, you also have the beginner's luck, so everything that you touch can be extremely lucky and guide you to an easy path towards mastery, as long as you're willing to stay out of your comfort zone. The Fool can also represent students, especially those who are working towards a degree, uni students, or if you're doing a course, it can represent that your studies are going to be successful, or in some cases, that you are going to complete your studies, but you need to go a little bit beyond. For example, specialize yourself, or don't stop studying immediately, because there are way more opportunities out there for you if you advance it a little bit. Regarding a person, it can represent a young person, an inexperienced person, a virgin, very, very disadvantaged person. Regardless from which perspective we look at it, it can be materially disadvantaged, it can be spiritually disadvantaged, but who has a lot of initiative, so helping that person or investing into the evolution or well-being of that person can actually save the situation and turn it into a diamond, so to speak. Whenever the Fool appears regarding a specific person, well, it kind of depicts when, there is a diamond buried in mud. The diamond is still valuable, but you need to get the mud off to see the shine and the value. From a mental perspective, the Fool can represent pure genius, but which is hidden, or it can represent a massive major epiphany or a flash of insight which changes your situation 180 degrees, and sometimes from being a master it can immediately put you back into the state of being an apprentice. But as I said, that is always good news, because you'll have the beginner's luck, so the universe will always conspire in your favor and in your greatest advantage. There are times when the Fool can also mean losses or, unfortunate events, risks, not paying off. But when the Fool depicts this kind of situation, it is always a good news, because there is way more to the story than meets the eye. Whenever you lost something or your risk didn't pay off, it is for a very good reason, because something infinitely better and more ideal is definitely gonna take its place. So whenever the Fool keeps popping up and it depicts something rather negative, it's actually positive. So it's just telling you, don't panic, don't worry, because your situation is going to turn around surprisingly and unexpectedly. The Fool can also represent adventures of any nature. It can represent, for example, traveling to places where you have never been before, but you really like to explore. So it can be a perfect experience to just live, satisfy your curiosity, make your soul richer by exploring new places, new cities, maybe new countries. So the Fool has an element of travel attached to it sometimes, but it's never planned. It is rather spontaneous or an unexpected invitation from a fellow Fool, so to speak. But of course, there are always two sides of a spectrum. So for those of you who use reverse tarot, as in when the Fool appears in reverse position, or for those of you who simply take on the negative symbolism of the tarot card without needing it to be, for example, in reverse position, well, the Fool can also represent a lot of not so pleasant things. Now, if in upright position the Fool is a wonderful new beginning, in reverse position you might want that new beginning, you might even be desperate for that new beginning, your old situation might be simply suffocating you, but when it's in reverse position, it means that your new beginning is not coming into your life right now. You either need to wait, or you don't meet either the inner or outer conditions for that new beginning to take place in your life. But naturally, don't forget, the Fool is Uranus, and Uranus loves to risk. And in reverse position, well, it is your call. You can still start and force that new beginning. You can still jump off that cliff. But if you decide to jump off the cliff anyway, well, then there is absolutely no guarantee that your risk is going to pay off. It is going to be 100% in the hands of chaos. So if you lose, you not just lose the situation, the new beginning, but you lose everything. In matters of finances, the Fool reversed advises you not to spend, not to invest, not to do risky operations with money, because there is a high chance of losses or unexpected expenses which you don't know about in the present moment situation. From a psychological perspective, the Fool reversed can represent really strong anxiety, mental disorders, for example, multiple personality disorder, bipolar depression, ADHD. That is where the Fool can be taken literally as a fool. It means that our mental spheres are very, very unwell or extremely imbalanced. In love and relationship, the Fool reverse can represent immaturity, but a kind of immaturity which irritates and is a problem, because it can represent bad decisions one after another which kind of are at risk of ruining the whole relationship. In other situations, especially when the Fool reversed is a requirement, well, it represents that you're ready for your new beginning, but the only thing that you're lacking is the beginner's luck, because whatever you ask is so complicated or quantumly entangled with other people or other things, or maybe it is a very, very big and impossible to accomplish dream where luck can simply not help you, but you can still proceed because you can make your own luck with your courage and with your superior intelligence. The Fool reverse can also represent failed tactics. It can also represent bad ideas, bad epiphanies, self-destructive tendencies. Or for example, if you ask the kind of question, am I going to, etc., is this going to, is he or she thinking of or going to, are they going to keep their promises, for example? Am I going to succeed at a specific thing? Now, the Fool reversed is never a very good news because it is a definite no. And it's definite because even if you force it, you can still accomplish it, don't get me wrong, but it will turn into a massive disadvantage. So when the Fool appears reversed, and your situation is very, very urgent, and you're already frustrated, you're already, running out of time, or you need to make a very quick decision, well, the Fool in reverse indicates that you either need a second opinion, you need someone outside as an objective observer to show you, reflect your situation back at you, because the way things are there and then, your situation is totally unfavorable and it is not going to turn favorable no matter what you do. Only knowledge, mastery, etc. is the key towards success. Now let's look at some really, really favorable combinations of the Fool card with other tarot cards. The Fool with the Wheel of Fortune usually represent a big manifestation of good fortune, but you do need to do something in order to attract it in your life. The Fool with the World card is also really, really positive because it represents a fated energy when one cycle closes and something fresh and new and delightful, because the Fool is the child after all, so it has to be something that really satisfies the inner child as well. So that is always a really pleasant combination. The Fool and the Lovers, or the Fool and the Two of Cups, can represent new love, a new relationship, new friendship, for example. New, and the Three of Cups is new friendship, new alliances, new beneficiary people entering into your life. The Fool and Three of Coins can represent new work, new colleagues, new position in your job. Fool and High Priest, or Fool and High Priestess, it can represent a vision, a prophecy being fulfilled, or it can mean basically an encouragement to use your spirituality, your faith, your inner power to accomplish something. For example, law of attraction, meditation, prayers, etc. Fool and the Devil can represent the fulfillment of a sexual fantasy, for example, or a partner which can satisfy all of your senses from a romantic perspective, for example. Fool and all of the four aces, regardless which ace, can represent a wonderful, very quick new opportunity entering your life, a surprise and delight from the universe. May it be a communication, an idea of yours, a financial gains, good fortune, or emotional solidarity from someone who you really love, for example. Fool and the Empress, Fool and the Queen of Coins can represent fertility, pregnancy, childbirth. Fool and the Tower can represent a situation that appears really, really bad, distressful, like an upheaval, but it will turn into something really, really positive. Fool and the Star can actually represent a miracle or fulfillment of your hopes and dreams, but in a way which surpasses your wildest expectations. But of course there's so very many combinations, so simply use your intuition. Now let's get to the more unfavorable or more dangerous combinations, when the Fool actually warns you about something not so pleasant or something negative that can enter your life. Now, as I said, the Fool and the Devil can represent a very wonderful and fulfilling sexual experience, but at the same time, it can also represent infidelity and a very powerful temptation. Fool and the Death card, well, these two cards are not really negative on their own, but the Death represents a very big, profound, unexpected change which comes in an instant. So basically that can mean anything. That can be good or bad. It can be distressful, painful, fearful, but it can also be very positive, delightful. So, that really, really depends on the situation, and I would usually clarify that. Fool and Two of Swords can represent total blindness. It can represent that no matter what you do, you just don't possess neither the information nor the mental capacity to see your situation or that situation in a very clear manner. Fool and High Priest can represent fanaticism, rigidness, dogmatic influence. Fool and the Tower might be a clear indication not to risk and not to leave your comfort zone because disaster awaits. Fool and, for example, Nine of Swords or Three of Swords can represent that a deeply rooted childhood trauma is simply blocking you and you really need to do something about it. Or in the case of Three of Swords, it can be a relationship which went bad and sour in that it just, the memory of it is still so alive in you and it's turning you into someone who you really don't want to be. The Fool and, for example, Eight of Cups can represent don't trust your feelings, don't abandon anything because your feelings might be wrong, or it can be a danger to be very careful with escapism, alcohol, or substances. Fool and 2 of Wands, 5 of Wands. Be very careful how you express your opinions, because it can lead to an argument, even a fight. Fool and 5 of Coins. Either don't make any financial risks, or do not overspend, or don't go into physically dangerous situations. For example, be careful when driving, health and safety rules at work, etc. Because there is a physical danger or poverty that awaits you if you make unwise choices. The Fool and 7 of Cups. Everything is a lie, or you're lied to, or you're deceived. Not with bad intent, of course, because the deceiver can be you. Your false hopes, your fantasies, your dreams. But when these 2 cards combine with each other, it's not really a realistic goal or situation or feeling. Everything is an illusion, but of course that doesn't mean that it is impossible or it's not going to lead to success, because it can very well mean the accomplishment of one of your dreams. But be sure that it is your dream and it is not programmed or conditioned by circumstances, society, parents, etc. Fool and 10 of Swords. Now that is one of the most negative possible combinations, because it tells you it is absolutely impossible, no matter what you do. If it's a plan, if it's a goal, if it's a desire, idea, whatever, it's impossible. Abandon it, surrender. It's not gonna happen. Fool and 6 of Swords. Well, this isn't negative, but most of us can perceive it in a negative way, because it means you have to wait a lot longer. You are on the right path, you are doing everything that you should be doing, but don't expect instant gratification. So that can be really, really frustrating. Or Fool and 7 of Coins. You get the fruit of your labor, but in small pieces, maybe like a trail of breadcrumbs. So is it truly worth it for you? Fool and the 8 of Coins. Abandon your future plans, because something unexpected is going to turn your situation around. Fool and 8 of Wands. Now this isn't negative, but it might tell you that an unexpected guest, visitor, unexpected communication or connection may enter your life, so be ready for that. Don't let it catch you off guard, for example. Fool and the Moon card, that is almost a clear indication of psychological illness, but the serious kind, which can have to do with hallucinations and, voices in the head, etc. But of course, all of these are just examples. Feel free to experiment, and naturally, if you're the tarot reader, you are the king of your own castle. You make up your own rules, because tarot is a language, and that language is written by you. So thank you so much for listening. This concludes your very first teaching video. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it. And if you would like a personal reading, please feel free to log on to 1millionnights.com and find your dedicated advisor. In the month of September, we have a special promotion where if you buy any of our prepaid packages, you get 10% bonus. Thank you once again. Wish everyone a blessed and safe day. Bye for now.